guideline. There's about 11 questions on here. We may not get through all of them. I just want to make sure that we give ourselves a solid 15-ish minutes to talk about your biggest takeaways, and then we'll have the second panel come on up of people that have been to a family reunion or two, and they're a little bit more accustomed to it. Okay. So first of all, let's start with your name, how long you've been in real estate, and was this your first family reunion, or how long it's been? Go ahead.
Hi, so I'm Cynthia. I've been in real estate for going on 3 years, and this was my first family reunion.
I'm Steven. I'm new to real estate. It's been 4 months, and first family reunion.
Kelly. I've been in real estate for about 10 years, and this is my first time.
First time, okay. So you already have a wide range of things here. First to real estate, been around for a long time. So first, this is going to be kind of a big one. So Gary Keller, really famous for doing his big vision speech. They used to also say state of the company. They didn't really say it that much this time, but it was a vision speech. How last year was, what the market's looking like. He gives his perspective. So starting with Cynthia, what was the biggest impactful lesson that you took away from Gary?
So I think the biggest thing that Gary, and I think it was Jason, they were both kind of going back and forth, but Gary had made a comment along the lines that people are complaining how expensive it is to buy a home, yet they're spending money on experiences. So like vacations, going out to eat. Then I think it was either Jason or Jay said something along the lines of, well, they all grew up during the Great Recession and they have a skewed view of real estate because they all saw their parents getting foreclosed on. So that's why like the percentage last year, first time home buyers was 24%, and that's a desire to own is so low because a lot of people entering the first time home buyer market just don't trust the real estate industry.
Yeah. That's a great perspective. Steven, what do you got?
I actually really like that one too. It was about the experience, but the greatest thing that I like from Gary is his sense of humor. He's actually kind of like really, I don't know, kind of like deadpan about it. But I think I like from the bold talk that he had. I like where he had one that's like be, do, and have. I like that perspective change where it's kind of like I don't have to wait to get my first client or whatever to be a top agent. I can already act and produce and kind of get the repetitions of the processes a top agent would have. So even though I don't have the results, doesn't mean that I cannot act and behave as such. So I really like that one.
Yeah, excellent. And just so you know, so Gary had a vision speech, and then he also had another kind of keynote approach where it was called the 10 Bold Truths. So that's what Steven's referring to. And we'll be sharing those again in the coming weeks and months and things like that.
You know what I learned? This is my first time, and I'm actually a commercial agent, not a residential agent. And it surprised me that about, I think, 14 or 15% of people that could afford to buy homes now. That was a really low number for me. And I'm really surprised at that, actually. And for me, I always believe in property ownership and everybody should be able to own a home, but as agents, we should find a way or different avenues to help people that want to buy, or help guide them, hey, this is what you need to do in the next couple of years to be able to buy a home. Because people don't think about that inflation part of it, and that in 30 years, the interest rate stays the same. It doesn't change, but your income changes. It goes higher, right? And in 30 years, that's part of your retirement. You get to own that, and because of Prop 19 also, your taxes are low. Prop 13 and 19, I'm sorry. Your taxes are low, that it enables you to afford to live here, and that's part of why a lot of people in Altadena, they could afford here because the taxes were low and the house was paid off. I think that's a vision that people forget, that you gotta put in that hard work to get where you wanna go at the end, because retirement is important. If you wanna retire in California, homeownership is part of the path too. Is that in 30 years or less, you own the home, your taxes are less, you have no mortgage. It enables you to do a lot more.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So there was also a keynote speaker. I'm gonna butcher. Jamie Kern-Lima. They always have a big guest speaker. They've had Mel Robbins, Tony Robbins. This time it was Jamie Kern-Lima. and she has big time entrepreneur. Started It Cosmetics. They were bought by I think L'Oreal, if I'm saying that correctly. But she had some great points. Did anything jump out to you guys?
What was interesting to me is that she got told no so many times, and the worst ways possible by all these big companies. And she said at each no, she kept having this knowing feeling in her gut, like, I don't know, like I gotta keep, even though they said no, I need to keep sticking with this, or even though they want me to change my marketing, I don't know, I need to do it my way. And she's so like spiritually based, and that knowing feeling, I think, was God telling her like, no, this is what you're supposed to be doing, just keep going and trust me. They're saying no because that is not for you. What I have for you is coming, but you just need to keep trusting yourself. And I think she said it was, when dysphoria will find you as long as you do not doubt yourself and trust in your knowing feeling.
Very nice. Good. Steven, anything?
Yeah, actually, she was kind of like one of my more favorite speakers at the event.
Okay.
I found her to be pretty inspirational and keeping it pretty real. And why I think that is because, yeah, like she's very spiritual, intuitive, trust your gut kind of thing. And then her story kind of got like this lady like right next to me, like started to cry. And I was like, oh man, like I'm starting to get like touchy-feely about it. But I guess at the baseline of it is kind of like being yourself, and the way that she has the perspective of doing that is, she says authenticity does not guarantee success, but inauthenticity guarantees failure. So I think it's just kind of like really trusting yourself and just putting yourself out there, like whether people like it or not, it's kind of who you are, and eventually you'll have better sustainability in being you than being who you think you should be.
All right. Kelly, anything else?
I'll piggyback with what Cynthia said. You know, getting a lot of rejections. I mean, she got a ton of rejections. Like, I mean, a lot of people would have just said no and given up. But she didn't give up, but she also learned from her mistakes also. That was the big thing I took. Is that through all her rejections, she also learned how to overcome it too. And all the challenges and failures that she faced, she learned how to overcome it. Come back home instead of, you know, giving up, she decided, you know what, I gotta find a way to overcome this challenge and not, you know, be afraid of all the rejections that she got. And she found different avenues. And that's what, to me, made her successful. And also, her authenticity is one. She got a lot of no's because of the way she wanted to do her business model, was to use more, like just average people, you know, older, younger, instead of using models for her skincare product. You know, she wanted to use average people like us, you know, who have skincare problems, you know, as a model instead of using, you know, a model who looks perfect and has good skin. So for her, that was her vision. And so she got a lot of no's because of that, you know. But in real life, you know, people that have skincare problem are just average people like us that have rosacea. So she didn't give up on that, and that's what made her company so successful too, is that she just used, you know, older, different types of models that were more your everyday life.
Fantastic takeaways. For those of you that don't know how family reunion works, or these just big events, how they work, is they have a giant stage where the day kind of starts, and then after that, it's kind of like a bunch of different breakout rooms, and I'm talking hundreds of breakout rooms. So it's definitely overwhelming. When you go to these things, it's important to have an idea of what type of agent you are, what kind of an agent you want to be, where your gaps are, and then you try to fill those gaps with those classes. So, and that's the unseen benefit of going to these events, is you don't get those small breakout rooms. So you guys all had the opportunity to hand select your breakout rooms. So big question here, when you did a breakout room, what was your favorite one? And maybe it was because, what was the biggest strategy you took away from a breakout room? Connections with an agent that is not from Pasadena. And if so, who were they, or where were they from? Any connections, any networking opportunities? Kelly?
I did actually. I met, you know, I didn't realize it was until somebody said that, you know, you gotta network, bring lots of business cards, and, you know, And so I did connect with, it's just a panelist actually, and she happens to live out in Pasadena, so I'm going to connect with her on short sales,
Ah,
but more of the commercial side.
okay, yeah.
So, and she just happens to be in Pasadena, and I met another one from, can't remember the town, but out in Oklahoma. So it was just more, I would say, eating lunch and sitting next to somebody, and because we all have the badge, so we're all connecting, and I got a chance to sit there, you know, eat lunch with them and connect with them, how their market center is doing, how they're doing, and we kind of shared stories. And I kind of gave him, you know, a couple of advices, because he's from a smaller town. And I said, well, you know, he did mention a hospital is near. I asked him, what is the big job growth, you know, what's the big job over there? And he says, hospital, there's a hospital nearby. And I said, well, have you thought about doing, you know, short-term rentals for traveling nurses? And it didn't dawn on him to think about it. And it gave him that aha moment, I guess. And he said that, you know, he had a client that was a nurse that had talked to him about, you know, buying rentals for nurses, traveling nurses, I'm sorry. So he didn't give me as much perspective as I gave him, but again, we're there to connect with people, and you never know where the referral's gonna come from, but at least he knew I was there to help him, and I wasn't there to, you know, try to do anything,
Businessy almost, or salesy.
yeah, salesy. I was more authentic with him, and he actually appreciated that. I didn't give him the 30-second or 15-second sales pitch. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect, that's perfect.
Yeah.
You know, and he appreciated that. So we did connect.
I think that's something, like, just to touch base on that, yeah, like, a lot of people, they connect with me, like, oh my gosh, I have to have, like, my 30-second, like, sales pitch ready to go, and I have to walk up to somebody who I never met before, and that's so scary, but really, like, the best connections you make are, like, somebody who you're standing in line at Starbucks with after you just left the gym, or one, like, I connected with a gentleman, he had kept seeing me at the gym, and he's like, oh yeah, I've seen you, like, in there every morning, you know, like, what market center are you from? So it's really those areas you don't think of, like, in the elevator, at the check-in desk, like, waiting for water, waiting for the restroom. Those are the best places, because it kind of keeps it, like, fun and interactive, and just short and sweet, really, is all
Yeah,
it is.
strike a conversation.
Yeah.
Steven, anything for you?
Yeah, I met some interesting people. Usually the line is like, oh hey, what's up? And then I met this one person who is actually not a Keller Williams agent. She's like out from like Connecticut. Apparently her area is trying to like, I don't know, like poach her. Just like, hey, come on, check it out. We'll pay for Vegas, we'll pay for family reunion, do that, all that stuff. So she doesn't understand like any of the Keller Williams systems or ideologies and stuff like that. So I was hanging out with her and I kind of like gave her the spiel of how my experience is, and then we actually went to one of the tech events.
Okay.
And then I was just like, oh, that's command, and you know, this and that. And I'm like, oh wait, this is not relevant to you. She's like, what do you use? She's like, oh, I use Google Sheets, you know.
Oh.
So it's kind of like a whole thing. But then at the end of it, she's like, oh, if I have any referrals in LA, you're my guy, you know. So I'm like,
Oh.
you know, well,
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think sometimes, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
when you help them, they appreciate it. You're not there just to sell them something, you're there to help them. And it's reciprocal, you know, at least you're there, you're more authentic and genuine with them.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I would say the challenge now is, well, the opportunity now is to stay in communication with them, because
Yeah.
they'll probably go to 3 or 4 different conferences, they'll meet 3 or 4 different California agents, and your job now is to reach out to them just quarterly and just check in how they're doing, revisit the conversation, so that she absolutely meant it. You're her go-to guy. In a year, she may forget who you are if you don't talk to her. I'm serious. So yeah,
Yeah.
you want to make sure you keep that connection fresh. Okay, so last question. There's a room of people. There's a recording. Some people are still on the fence about going to Keller. I'm going to say Keller Williams events, because it's not just family reunion. There's Mega Camp, family reunion. There's other smaller events. But what would you say to somebody that is unsure if they want to go to a Keller Williams big event?
So I think what I would say, and I was very on the fence about going, like I went back and forth to just like the day of. And I
She
think
did.
Yeah, I really did. And JP Lewis actually really summed it up for me. If you want to succeed here, the first thing you should do is become a student of this company. And And I feel like that's so true in KW. KW is a company that prides themselves on all the trainings they give and all the opportunities they give. And you have to just accept the fact that you are not gonna know everything about real estate. You're not gonna know everything about being the best listing agent, the best buyer's agent. You have to be willing to be learning, and that's how you succeed.
Very nice, okay.
I think it's good. I feel like it's a good revamp. It's good like energy. I think like going into you see your community of realtor internationally or wherever it is. It's kind of like a coaching session. You pay X amount of dollars for a coaching session, or you can go speak with 50 people and really pick their brain and chat GPT in your head and pick out whatever's the best golden nuggets for yourself and your business or in your life, because that's what people really want to share.
For me, it's more motivational to keep me more focused on what I really need to do. And everybody has a moment where you're down and you're not focused on your business. And this really, really helps you keep you focused. It gives you lots of ideas. If you go to different sessions, you'll always learn one or two things, if not the panelists, but the people around you, because there's always people asking questions. So there's things that you just never thought of. And when you go to family reunion, or mega camp, it really broadens your mind how you can excel at your business. You just never think about it until you're there. And there's all kinds of opportunities that you just didn't think about.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys, for coming up on the panel. Let's have our next group of panelists come on up. Let's see, James, Molina. Thank you guys so much for doing this. All great answers.
Gabe, do you want?
So again, like I said, you're gonna get some similar questions, similar perspectives. First of all, thank you for doing this, guys. Really quickly, name, how long you've been in real estate, and how many times you've been to Keller Williams events.
Okay, hi everyone. Melina Kalachian. I do commercial real estate in this office, and this is I've been a realtor for 18 years, something around there, and been in this office for about 2 years. So this is my second family reunion.
Second, okay, very nice.
Hi, I'm James Dunn. I've been to family reunion. This would be the fourth.
Sheesh.
3 with this office, and then once prior at a previous office. And I have been in real estate for 18 years, 19 years.
All right, so we got some experience up here. So the most open-ended, toughest question there is, Gary Keller's speech, the vision or the 10 bold truths. What was a big takeaway from that? And we can kind of dive in a bit.
I will say, well, I think the interesting thing is, because I've been there for 3 straight years, I've had the opportunity to basically kind of see how it's progressed over several years, and noticing trends, patterns, things like that. I think this year there's a lot of things that were similar to the year prior. A lot of expectations that there's going to be kind of limited amounts of change in terms of the market as a whole in the country. I think it's interesting how there were very specific segments of the speech that focused on things like tariffs and current kind of government policies that are going to be influencing the market. So I thought that was really unique. But overall, it's just really cool to kind of go there, be present with a bunch of other agents from across the country to kind of hear the perspective from the leaders of our company, and be able to kind of internalize that and then see how that applies to the local market. So I think that was a pretty great thing.
Very nice. Okay. Melina?
Well, I actually missed the vision meeting.
Okay.
I had another trip, so I actually got there right after the meeting. So, but I did talk to you about it, and then I read some of the things and talked to other people about what was said. And it's interesting because this is my second year. So as of last year, of course, I don't remember specifics. We forget like 5 minutes after, but there's a lot of similarities. The main takeaway, I was at the 10 Bold Truths, and I think what I got out of what Gary Keller was trying to do was kind of bring everyone to the come to Jesus conversation, where, you know, it's time to sharpen our skills, sharpen our pencils, and kind of let reality set in. What was interesting was that, you know, based on what I've read and kind of talked to people about, is even though, yes, the numbers were not great, but they're still there. So there's still activity. There's still properties being sold. There's still people moving, you know, the D's, I think it's 11 D's.
Batting them, I don't know.
So, you know, there's a whole bunch of things that are already there that are happening. It's just, we need to find them. And so it's interesting for me that Gary, one of his 10 truths was love, is I think his most important, and the last is typically his most important, I believe. That's what I've noticed also in the past, is you know, he leaves the best for last, and it's love. So for him, he just kind of, he was trying to bring everyone together. Hey, listen, this is our reality for now, but look, there's good things that are happening, you know, keep positive. So it was nice to see that.
Yeah. And for those of you that haven't seen it yet, there's this really cool dynamic where Gary Keller basically runs the talk, but then he has Jay Papasan and Jason Abrams kind of like ping-ponging off of him. And it was interesting because Gary Keller he's a realist, I'll say, he's a realist. So he will say like, hey, this is what the numbers are doing. You know, it's gonna be tough. And then Jason was able to jump in and say, true, it's gonna be similar to last year. And how many of you still sold homes last year? And everybody raised their hands. So they said, you know, there still is business out there. It's just, it's less, or it's same as last year. That's what they're projecting. And the opportunities are still there for the agents that can go find the motivated. So I thought that was really good. I like that dynamic that they have. So I guess similar question for the keynote. Jamie Kern-Lima, she's the IT Cosmetics, sold to L'Oreal for $1.2 billion, something crazy. So were there any big takeaways? She was big on mindset, so anything there?
Well, I mean, I know, I've been following her. I know her story. I know her story before the day. And it's very inspiring, truly exceptional. And the takeaway for me was, you know, I think Cynthia said it, the amount of rejections she got. It was, and it takes a certain, and it's, I think overall this family reunion and all the breakouts and stuff, the main message was, that I kept hearing over and over again, is consistency beats intensity. And that's exactly the message she brought to the table. Is she was consistent with her messaging. She was consistent with the belief in herself and her product, and she didn't give up. So it was truly inspirational, and I mean, great for her. Like I said, I've followed her. I've seen her interviews with like Ed Milet and Mel Robbins and stuff. So it was very inspiring.
Yeah, it's cool to hear people that break through. You know, especially it took years, and there are people that came full circle after she made it and essentially apologized for doubting her, which I thought was a very cool story. She mentioned that she started, you know, as a server at Denny's. I can't remember the other stop. As a news anchor, she was on television, and she thought that was her dream. I think she felt, you know, that she had made it when she got to that point. And when she started experiencing some challenges because there was, I can't remember the condition that she has where her skin couldn't break out. Rosacea, okay. And so she was having a hard time concealing that on on camera, and she would have a person in her ear essentially just repeating over and over again while she's trying to focus on presenting on the news. There's something on your face, there's something on your face. So there was this reinforcement of like what she was dealing with, and that ultimately kind of inspired her to try to pursue this passion, this new passion. And she always followed her gut. I remember that. She had talked about how every time there was a moment in her life where she was feeling this kind of gut instinct to move something forward, she chose to do that and follow that voice. And then ultimately with commitment and consistency, and despite the doubts, the self-doubt, doubts from others outside of her, she was able to persevere. And then the story about when she finally made it was pretty fascinating too. She was pitching to QVC multiple times and got rejected multiple times, and then eventually got on QVC. And you're basically given 10 minutes to sell out this product that you're pitching. And so there were 6,000 units that they needed to sell. And if she didn't sell those 6,000 units, then basically this whole build up to this moment would be over. They weren't gonna give her a second shot, at least in that form. And then as she's walking to do this, they say, oh, by the way, if you don't show decent numbers in the first couple of minutes, we're gonna cut this short. So she may not even get the 10 minutes. So she had all of those things running through her mind while also trying to keep her composure and be able to present live on national television. I mean, that stuff was pretty cool to hear, and to be able to do that, and to sell out, and to just see it all come together, and then becoming one of the best products to ever go to the QVC is a really cool story. So that's obviously a massive example of what we aspire to do as agents. Obviously, we have varying degrees of goals and dreams that we have for our careers. And so I think what that does is it gives you more permission to move your dream forward. To see something at such a massive scale gives me permission to think bigger, dream bigger, and have a belief that, I personally have what it takes to be successful, and I think we all should do that.
See, I love doing panels because they just pulled something out of my brain that I had forgotten about, and she brought an interesting perspective. She said that early on she was making her pitches and she got rejected and rejected and rejected. And looking back, she said, if I had not been rejected, if I had been accepted then, I would have sold at the bottom floor and I would have missed out on this $1.2 billion payday. So she said, rejection is God's protection. And when you can think of it like that, like, oh, you know what? I was protected from selling out too early. And you change that perspective, that was big for me. Because yeah, all I thought was, man, she could have sold for a couple $1 million and felt like she did the right thing. But she got rejected for a reason and ended up doing however.
Well, it goes back to the knowing, in her, and she's a wonderful storyteller, and I recommend everyone to kind of go maybe to her podcast and listen to her or look at her YouTube videos and stuff. But it always goes back to her knowing, and she didn't give up on her knowing, and every time she was in pain, the knowing got louder. That's what she said. So it always goes back to that, and it also, for me, in my world, I mean our world, I was thinking, hey, I don't have it so bad. Our lives are not as stressful as hers is, hers was. It's just, I think it really gives you perspective. Obviously, it's very on a different level. We sell a service, not a product, but her and her husband were all in, and they were literally on the brink of bankruptcy. So she's a great storyteller, and she's so passionate about it, and it always goes back to her knowing, and it's really nice to see that.
Good. Yeah, I did not know she existed, to be honest. I didn't.
A couple, and I'm sure you can combine both answers, but my first one I went to was the open house forum, and I've done 50 and then some 100 open houses in my 3-year career, and the big thing I took away actually was that all 3 agents sitting on the panel, none of them asked the people coming in to sign the sign-in sheet first. It was just a hi, welcome, I'm
there, so that's what he means by Mofer.
wonderful.
Yeah. Kelly, same question for you.
For me, it was more motivational to really track my numbers and, the main thing I took away from the sessions was the government services, which I talked to you about, that this is their first year of launching it, and they want to connect with residential and commercial agents for government services.
What does that entail? What's government services?
Government services where they come in where they need certain spaces for their, like ICE and stuff like that, for government services.
I
So
see.
this is, you're dealing with the feds, really.
I see, the agencies, yeah.
Agencies
Yeah.
there, and whatever services they need,
Yeah.
need different market centers to work with, whether
Okay.
it's residential or commercial.
Okay.
So that was my big takeaway. I mean, I knew about it, but it was just a hard way to get in, but I didn't know KW Commercial had this new platform for us to connect with, so I do recommend that everybody should check into it.
Good to know. Okay. So this one could have been covered at any point in time. It could have been from Gary Keller's vision speech. It could have been from a breakout room. But question is, was there a certain market update? And again, this could have been Gary Keller's talking about listings or number of open houses. Were there any eye-opening market updates that you thought, like, I did not realize that? I mean, Kelly, you kind of touched on inflation and affordability. But did anything else jump out at us, guys, that we just didn't notice beforehand? I stumped the panel.
Yeah, you did.
I feel like people just kind of believe in what is the recent news, whatever they got in the last 6 months, whether it's about interest rate, about housing and stuff like that. But if you look at the macroeconomics of it in a longer time span and kind of digging through the history of it, like in the last 20 years, house prices are actually kind of okay. Interest rate is relatively decent. Like it's not a huge spike in percentage and all that stuff. But I don't think people.
So it was. I went down the wormhole over this last weekend. I mean, really good stuff. So you guys are up here because you've either been to family reunion before, or you've had a business established for a while, or both. Having been to this family reunion, are there any tweaks that you're going to be making? So Melina has her partner, her husband as a partner, and then James helps run the Burns team. So both are running operations. So are we revisiting any tweaks to do to our operations after that? And if so, what?
Well, there's a few actually. I think because I'm going through my notes here. There's 9 things that I was part of. I obviously focused mostly on ops-based breakouts, and I think a lot of what I took away from the operations breakouts was there was a lot of refreshers, and then there was also kind of this concept around how do you incentivize your team to continue to pour into culture, to pour into the success of the group, and how do you move forward, have a common goal. Those are all things that I think our team does really well. And I think part of the reason why I have to kind of dig a little deeper is because I know our group is very intentional since before I was a part of it. And so now it's really, okay, we've established a lot of really good fundamentals, we've done some advanced things, so what is that next level thing that we can do, such as, how do we go from having a successful group within this office to kind of creating a scalable model that will allow for us to go beyond, as a big goal of ours. So that was one of the major focuses for us and for me is how do I continue to find scalable systems that can start that could work potentially for a single agent and then go beyond that.
That's a big idea. I like it. Yeah.
It's a big mission, so we're working on it.
All right, Melina, same question for you.
Well, there's a lot. I did quite a bit of the sessions on it. I didn't keep track, but I had a lot of notes and I had them digitized. I'm very
Of course
proud
you
of.
do.
Yeah.
So, the biggest takeaways for me and I'll go through that in a minute as far as how I'm going to implement it. There's a lot, there's a lot that's thrown at you, there's a lot that you learn, there's a lot of excitement, it's kind of exhausting because it's like everything's coming at you, and you get excited and then, okay, how do I implement this? How do I personalize this and bring this home and then so we don't forget about it and kind of make it work for us. Last year I decided that I was gonna do two things. I was gonna take two things, and if I can at least do one that year, it was a very low bar, but I had to set something so that I wouldn't disappoint myself, and I did. So it was not as successful as I would have hoped, but I think I'm on the right track on that sense. This year, I decided that I was going to hire a coach to help me do that.
Very nice.
So I talked to Alicia Shepard, who's
Okay.
our, Kidia commercial leader, one of our leaders, and I actually signed up with her 7 figures in 90 days.
Nice.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
So I'm
That's a big
excited.
deal.
Starting in 2 days,
Whoa.
I'm already being my rear end is already being put in gear. So I'm already getting a lot of calls and emails from her. So I'm excited about that. I'll keep you posted how it goes. The expectation is to put me in. I just need more consistency. Look, the whole thing is that we know to do. I mean, it's not that we don't know what to do. I mean, I know what to do. I know how to do it. I do it, and I've been doing it. So it's not that. It's just when times are tough, it's like when you're riding a bike. When you're riding a bike, when it's uphill, you prepare for it, you train for it, you take your vitamins the day before, you eat pasta 2 nights before, you kind of prepare yourself mentally, physically to attack that hill. And then when it's downhill, you just kind of let go. Sometimes you do tricks, you do one leg, you do one arm, whatever. And it's time to, I felt like this family reunion, it was time to go back to the drawing board and kind of sit down and really lay everything out. It's very scary to do that, but I'm gonna do it. And just to kind of figure out where I need to improve, because we can always improve on things. So that was, that was huge for me, and I'm gonna do that. So one of the biggest thing I want to talk about that the breakout sessions that I did was Phil Jones. I did Phil Jones and Rory, and it was really. I mean, I have his book. I'm gonna buy his other book, which is Magic Words. I have the real estate one, which we talked about at ALC, I think, last year. But Phil Jones wrote the book, Exactly What to Say. I recommend it to everyone. And looking back and going through all of his videos and stuff on YouTube, he's just, I actually found myself this past few days, this week, since we've been back, last few days, whoever I've talked to, I've kind of stopped myself from, when I'm writing an email, I don't use I anymore. Or, for example, he said, that's the worst thing you could do is use I. Stop following people up, stop, checking in. It was really, really great. So, yeah. So he's really, it was a lot, and it's very difficult to not do those things, but because we're so accustomed to doing certain things a certain way. So it's just those little tweaks, I think, that do make that big difference. So that was huge for me. I really enjoyed his presentation.
And by the way, for those of you that have been to a role play on Thursdays, we use the Exactly What to Say flashcards. That's from the same author. Let me see. We're running out of time. I want to ask: did you guys have an opportunity to grab any referrals or deep connections with other agents? Because I know that's a big part of family reunion. I know some people, they want to get at least one referral to pay for the trip. I know that's how Sylvia views it. So were there any of those big connections that you guys made there?
I met, quite a few people. I met this group from Hawaii, the Hawaii office, during the Phil Jones presentation. We were on the same table. We kind of exchanged information. But the big takeaway from me and the connection I made, I know Alicia Shepard. I mean, I've met her a few times and talked to her a couple of times here and there, but I really didn't get a chance to connect with her up until this time, and I made a point of doing that.
Good.
I literally went looking for her, like more than a few times,
Wow.
because I really wanted to do this program with her. So, and in making that decision, I met a few people, different agents from different offices that have actually done the program more than once. So it was kind of a educational kind of a referral for me.
Yeah, I was able to kind of do one-on-one connections pretty consistently. There's an app called Blink, if anyone's familiar with it, BLINQ. It's kind of like this very simple, easy way to exchange information from one professional to the other. So if the next opportunity you get to go to a networking event, that's probably going to be one of those apps that you'll be able to use. So basically what it looks like is, you'll have basically just this list of individuals. So these are some of the folks that I met through Family Reunion. I have some from Mega Camp as well. That's actually when I was first introduced to it last summer. And so it's a very cool thing. And so I can tap on any person's contacts and it's their information there. I can write notes. So that was a really cool thing. And I was actually able to show that to some of the agents too. Like, hey, you can use this. So I kind of low-key was teaching some folks how to network faster. So that was pretty cool, and that made kind of a tiny impression on people, and so that was fun. As someone that's going for operations, I think what I could have done better this time around is be more intentional to kind of set up meetings, because I am in a lot of ops groups. So if you're in a group already through KW, Facebook, whatever that is, if you can do some kind of pre-planning to be more effective and efficient with your networking, I think that can probably help. But agents are pretty consistently attempting to network, and so it's like if you're introducing yourself to someone and exchanging information, it's a very kind of known thing. So there's no real kind of confusion there. Everyone's pretty open to it. So if you are proactive about networking, you'll definitely get a ton, because you'll accidentally network no matter what. So.
Yeah, and just when you go to these events, they're in a room like this being told, hey, go out and network, go out and meet people. You're being told that. So I like that you mentioned that. It's not awkward. No one's gonna be like, another person. They're just as social as you are. They're relaying information. Anytime I grab a business card, I'll write on the back of it anything I remember from that person, because you'll end up with 15 business cards. You're like, I don't know who any of these people are. So you'll just take a note, like College Station he told me about the investment numbers, so I was like writing down the investment numbers, and I actually sent him a text, and he sent me a text back. So it's all about intentionality, and just know that they're all open to networking with you as well. Last question, and I noticed the panelists, or the people running the panels, all asked this question this year. What is one thing I didn't ask that I should have asked you? Every single one of them. Jason asked that, Jay asked that. I thought it was such a good question. That you'd like to share that we didn't touch on. This will be the last question. This wasn't on the paper, so I read it.
Well, I think that, when I read the notes you sent, what wasn't on there was how are you going to implement. So that was.
Okay.
I guess a good question would be something a little more like, in my head, is how do you prepare to stay comfortable while you're going through this process? Because you're there
Oh.
And I think the first year I was wearing shoes like this, and I was like, nope, not doing that next year. So wear walking shoes. That is one thing I think is important to ask. Like, how are you going to prepare to be somewhere for 5 days and learn? I think another question could be, study the city because it travels. For example, it's going to be in Atlanta next year, and I've never been to Atlanta, and I'm excited for that. So I'm asking myself, well, what's going to be different this time around? Because Vegas was there twice, and so there was a familiarity this year because I was able to go last year, so it was a lot less that I had to worry about in terms of where I'm going to eat and all those types of things. So that's more of a functional question.
Yeah, but it's valid. I mean,
But yeah, that's probably something. In terms of the event itself, I think it's how are you preparing yourself to be able to use your time efficiently? I think if you're not looking at the agenda in advance, you could be wandering because it can definitely be overwhelming if you're just walking in and attempting to plan on the spot. So I would always ask myself, what breakouts do I intend to participate in? It's in command. That was one thing that I learned because it's all being housed there, so you get a chance to really look in advance and see what's available. So just be prepared in advance so you're not having to ask those kinds of questions when you're there.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of piggyback
Sure.
off of that. It's really important to prepare because you don't want to get there and say, okay, what do I do now? Because then you're losing precious time.
Yeah.
And and some of these breakout sessions, it just if you're not looking for them, it's very easy to miss them because there's so many of them. You have to understand there's 20,000 people there, so it's a lot of people. So they have to have enough to do for all those people, and some of these rooms get filled up really quickly. And sometimes people were sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
It was, interesting to see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important to prepare. Where you're gonna go, what's important to you. Maybe have a theme in mind, or the way I did it this time around was I did one at least breakout session a day of something that I would typically wouldn't do. Like, I do commercial, so but I did one that would be, I would have, it was not commercial, it was kind of universal, or it was residential. I actually did the open house, which was interesting because it gave me ideas. In commercial, we don't do open house, but why the heck not? What if you have a building and there's a vacancy there? You can totally have an open house. Why not? So it helps you kind of think outside of the box a little bit. So those are some of the things that I would recommend, and if you could ask that, I would say.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for doing this panel. We appreciate you taking the time. So the last thing that I'll say is the slides that we all got to see are available. You can find them on our website. If you go to any Keller Williams main site, you're going to find these slides everywhere. Everyone has access to these. Okay, just so you know, the Coldwell Banker, Remax, they all are going to have access to these slides. It isn't proprietary. The question is, who's going to be bold enough to put it up on a screen behind them and talk about it, right? I heard it said once that your clients don't want to hear news, real estate news from you. They want to hear your perspective on the real estate news. What does this mean to me? How do I apply this? Oh, great, interest rates are this high. What does that mean for me? Okay, we have those slides. We're gonna keep talking about them so that hopefully it'll just build you up so that you can turn around and do it. But Jason Abrams said something, and Gary actually said it for the first time ever. Somebody that is willing to post at least once a week consistently will have an entirely different business in a year. Because it just, the consistency, 52 posts doesn't seem like much, okay? But keeping yourself to at least once a week will change your business. You'll become the economist of choice, okay? So thank you so much, guys. Yes?
I do have something I wanted to share
Sure,
with
please.
this session. one of the panelists spoke about the CEO of Zillow. I don't know if you heard. He, they do algorithms in estimating the price of your home. So he ended up selling his home 40% lower than what he originally listed for. So that just goes to show you we are valuable, but if you look it up, it is true. 40% lower than what he originally listed for, and he's the CEO of Zillow. Look it up.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, I forgot to say the food here is compliments of Sandy Franco. So thank you, Sandy. I think she may have left by now. So thank you, Sandy, for providing the food. And then, in case you didn't notice, this has a very special theme to it. We have two ladies in our office that are expecting, and we're so excited for them. Is there a baby shower song that people sing, like "Happy Baby" to you or something?
Baby's coming, baby's coming.
Baby's coming. Well, ladies, come on up. We just wanted to congratulate you. Hannah's in there. So we were gonna have cupcakes originally from somewhere else, but unfortunately that didn't work out. People,
We have cupcakes.
No, I know from
Yeah.
Karen's daughter. Come on up.
Oh.
Yeah. So this is gonna be the briefest of briefest. We just want to know due date, gender, anything. Can you tell us anything?
Yes, I'm having a girl
Ah.
and I'm due on March 30th.
No.
Already coming up. I'm having a boy and I'm due March 19th.
Yeah. And then we all agreed that once they're like 5 months, we're gonna do baby races to see who can crawl the fastest. So we are so excited for you ladies. We're here to support you in any way, open houses, any of those things. So we're happy for you. God bless you, and eat some food.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
What's that? There you go. I knew there was something coming. Yeah. You want to jump up? Speaking of pregnancies, we have a happy hour.
Yeah. Hi guys. Yes, the culture committee is doing a happy hour after the baby shower right next door at Cordova Cafe from 1:30 to 3. They're going to be honoring happy hour prices. So wine, beer, and if you don't drink coffee, tea, snacks, and just come over after the baby shower and have a good time there too.
The monkey paw coffee over there is delicious. I don't know what's in it.
And the
It's not a
lavender
monkey
sky
paw.
matcha.
There you go. All right, so at the office, we got you ladies a little something. So this is for you,
Thank you.
and congratulations again.
Yay, y'all are so sweet. Thank you
right.
guys.
All right, guys. Well, don't be shy. Eat some food. Again, compliments of Sandy Franco, and mancha mancha.